Oh, you're not recording that.
Stop.
Come on in. So for everyone, after the session, I still have a few of these SharePoint stickers and OneDrive stickers with the new logo. If you want one, come and grab one. Welcome. How's the day been so far? Is it okay? Good? Yeah? Everybody had fun? Yeah? Alright. So last session before lunch. I'll make it a quick one, so you can go to lunch before everyone else. It's important, it's important. Cool. So, thank you to the sponsors. I don't know any of these people, but still thank you. Because of them we had a really nice meal yesterday and lots of alcohol. And tonight there will be probably just the same thing, so okay. No, but in all honesty, it's so cool that on a Saturday you're all coming. I mean, it's warm, okay, but it's always warm here, I guess, but it's warm, the sun is shining, but you still want to spend a Saturday here, and that is awesome. And these people want to thank you for that as well. So, awesome. Cool. Who am I? I'm this guy. My name is Marijn, if you're wondering how to pronounce it. But if you call me Martin or hey you, I will listen to that as well. That's all good. So I'm from Belgium. Funny fact, I'm also a licensed watchmaker. So I can also repair clocks and watches. I've been in SharePoint for over 12 years. And I've been an MVP for a few months now, which is fun. Another funny story, really quickly. I used to live in Madrid. I can't speak a word Spanish anymore, but 13 years ago, I was working for the Real Biblioteca in the palace. I did a really cool, few really cool projects there. And one of those projects is still online. It's called Encuadernación. It was about the book binder art, so that's still there. This was our workroom where we were. It's pretty cool. And these were the books that we were handling, so all handwritten from the conquistadores. It was super cool to work with. So next to being a general badass and talking, I also have a podcast with this very weird guy. We have some stickers from the podcast, by the way, if you want some. Has anybody listened to it already? Okay. Sorry?
We will start listening.
Yeah. It's about the same thing as I'm presenting right now. So it's like we are just sitting in a bar and just talking about stuff, Office 365 stuff, and we always end with a whiskey tasting. Some people say maybe you should taste the whiskey before you're speaking about Office 365, but I don't know if that would do any good for the quality, so we'll see. Also, with this guy, you see Mori, we also do a video, it's not really a podcast, but it's a video thing, where we try to blame the end user for all things that are going wrong with Office 365. Also a lot of fun to do, so anyway. But we're not here to talk about me. I can talk about me for days. I'm a very interesting person. But we're here to talk about SharePoint and about conditional formatting. So how can you make your lists and your libraries look pretty? And we'll talk about how it used to work, why that we need to change now, how it works now. I've got a lot of demos planned. How to get it out there in your organization, and also a little bit about what's coming. So my goal is for you after this session that if you look at SharePoint now, which is that little cute water pistol, if you come out of my session in about an hour, it will look like this. So it will be friggin' awesome. Now also, of course, with great power comes great responsibility. And if you go too far, you get something like this. Yeah? So be aware that you show some responsibility towards your end users. So here the list from Microsoft. So they have been doing all kinds of really cool things to make lists and libraries better. They already have a bunch of things that they rolled out, like the proper sharing experience flow and Power App integration. But we're mainly talking about conditional formatting and view formatting today. So, my next slide has graphic content, so I need to warn you. So just like when you buy a rap CD that they say, okay, warning, explicit content. So this also has graphic content. So how did it used to work to do conditional formatting? And that's the thing I wanted to warn you about, SharePoint 2003. So how did that work back then? Did anyone work with SharePoint 2003? Few people? Okay, cool. It was pretty terrible back then. You could have used SharePoint Designer for 2007 and 2010. Who worked with SharePoint 2007? Worked with 2010? A few people. Cool. So what you could do there is you could transform your list into something that was called something else, and I can't really think about the name. What was the name in SharePoint Designer? You can change the list into a something like that, and then you can actually do some apply some conditional formatting to it. So conditional formatting is really like, okay, if my value is 7 and it's higher than 5 and lower than 10, it should appear in yellow, for example. And those were things that you could do with SharePoint Designer. Who likes SharePoint Designer? Nobody. Okay. Oh, too bad. I like that. So in 2013, we could have done, we could do something else. So there we could create a calculated column, and there we could put some Excel-like formulas in there. That would do the thing for us. And then we had this spot to SharePoint JavaScript that we had to put on the page, and that would transform this formula into a proper HTML element. Who used this? Did anyone use this before? Yeah? Cool. That worked really cool, right? That was really good. Yeah. So, why do we need to change now? SharePoint Designer is gone. And okay, you will not miss it, but I will miss it. It's also kind of dangerous. So that previous example, this one, yeah, you don't want to do this all the time, and you also don't want to just inject some JavaScript that you found somewhere on the internet and put it in your production environment. You kind of don't want to do that. So it was also too difficult for your end users most of the time. So if John from marketing wanted to do something like this, he would probably get stuck. It was also not a good way to roll it out to everywhere. So you needed to do that for every view, for every list, for every library. So that was a lot of work to get it really out as well. So how does it work now? Well, there are some things that we can do from the user interface. Microsoft is really working hard to make this much bigger. And we can also do a lot of things with JSON. Who of you is a developer? Okay, who's not a developer? Okay, cool. Nice. So, JSON. Is it code? Is it not code? Is it script? Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's difficult. Yeah? So, don't worry, I'll show you a better way. And we can also use PowerShell to roll it out if we want. So, user interface. Let me just get my first demo here. So I've got this SharePoint site. And can everybody see this? Probably not.
It's too much light.
Too much light? Can we turn off the light here in front? Cool. So I just have a list called SharePoint. I've got all the speakers here and see what they drink to see if they're already drunk, yes or no. And the last day that they drank something.
Water.
Yes. So I thought I'm just going to do safe. I'm just going to say everybody's drinking water. Yeah. Cool. So what can you now do out of the box with the user interface? So if you click on the title of the column, there's this thing column setting, and you can actually say I want to format this column. So I want to make this column look better, and to actually the values that are in there, I want to make them easier to detect. So you can format the column, and because I'm zooming out and in, it's gonna fuck it up. So here I can do something by default, and I can say I want to fill the background color. So by default, if I just click on it, it will already say, okay, I will fill it up. Green will be water, dark blue will be wine, and light blue will be whiskey. But if you click on edit the template, you can also choose for something else. For example, water is blue, so let's put blue in there. Whiskey is more brown, so let's put some brown in there. And wine is more red, so put red in there. Gone. So in a really easy way, I can make this look much better. Yeah. So that's how it works out of the box via the user interface. So my column is that person already drunk. I can also format it. So the first one was a choice field. The second one is a yes/no field. So here I can edit the template, and I can just say it's green if it's yes, it's red if it's no. For example, I can apply that as well. And then the last one is a date. And here you can also do a number of cool things. So you can say if the date here is before today, it will have this color. If it is on this day, it will have that color. And if it's after today, it will get another color. So this would be easy, for example, if you have tasks in there or things that need to happen before a certain date, you can immediately put a color in there, and so that it pops out and that you can actually see what is happening. Yeah? Cool. There is also another one. But I'm going to show that later on. Good. Where are my slides? Okay. So the other one, the fourth one, is also numbers. And the numbers is now rolling out. So not all of you will have it in your tenant right now, but it is rolling out. To be honest, I was just an hour ago looking at my own tenant and see if all my demos were still working, and I just saw that this was now just rolled out to my tenant. So it's just very, very new. And Microsoft is working to have more of this as well, because we're going to see next up that we also can do that with JSON, and JSON is just a pain in the behind, and we don't want to do that for non-developers, because what we actually want is that our end users can do all these things. If we're working in a company with 50,000 people, I don't want to do that for every list and for every library where I want to have this. So I want it to be super easy and out of the box and just from the user interface, so that everyone in my company can do that if they want to. Cool. So we also have this thing called advanced mode. So if we want to format the column, there's a button down there that says we can also do this in advanced mode. Advanced mode, that means writing JSON code. Yeah? How does that JSON code look like? It can look something like this, and I will just walk you through what it means. So we have an element type is the first thing. And an element type that's just what is the piece of HTML that is on there. Yeah? Then we can say what should we display. So in this case, I just want to display the text that was already on there. and we can have our style, so what it needs to look like. So in this case, I want something with a background color in red, I want the text color to be white, and I want to have some more padding in there. How does that look like? If we're going to demo this, so I'm going back to my list. I've got another list here, and these are players from the Spanish football team. And what I want to do is I want to apply that code, so the element type, div current field and red, I want to apply that to my title, for example. I want to format this column, and I can put that right here, and I can save this, and then we will get this one. So you can do it pretty easy, so it's not very difficult to do that. If you know a little bit HTML or CSS, you can actually do pretty cool things with it without having to really be a developer. So these things you can all look that up online. That's super easy to do. So that was my first demo. So what is supported? All these fields, all these columns that you can add in SharePoint, these are supported to have some kind of formatting on them. These ones are not supported, so the managed metadata, the file name, calculated columns, and retention labels. So these are not supported or not yet supported, so you can't add any colors and stuff on there. So what can we do with all that formatting? So we can do some markup and some design. We can change the actual content of a field, because in my demo that I just gave, we just had the current field that was showing there. But we can also just show something else, whatever we want. And we can also add some logic there. So if value is bigger or less than this, do that. And we can also put some actions in there. For example, start a flow. Create a button, and if you click on the button, it will start a flow, for example. So, in our code, the first thing that we had was an element type. Yeah? So the element type, I always use a div, but there are some others that you can use as well. And the content that you want to display, so the txt content, that specifies the text that is shown. It can be a string, so you can just put something there yourself. Could be an expression. So you can use current field for a person column. So if you have a person value, you can use .title, .email, whatever to do something with that person field. And for lookup values, you can actually use current field .lookup value, or lookup ID is the other one, I think. And that also works. You can also use another column name if you want. So for styling, you can use CSS, of course, but you can also use the Office UI Fabric icons. Who knows the Office UI Fabric? Okay, cool. Yeah, you're all developers, so. Okay. Second demo that I think is really cool, that actually gives people more insight in values. It's the data bars. And actually this is the one that is also now rolling out. So if I go in my column to see how many games these people played for the Spanish team, if I go to column settings, format this column, this is the new thing that I wanted to show you. So these are the data bars. And this actually shows you in a very visual way who played the most games and who plays lesser games, not that many games. So also very cool. But we can also go into advanced mode, get rid of this, and actually get exactly the same here from my code, and then it would look like this, more in line with our style of our site. So Also, those design templates that Microsoft gives you, you can also go into advanced mode and then change the code that they give you. So you can build upon that code. So for example, with the blue data bars that Microsoft gave me, I don't like blue, red is better. I can just go into that code and just find where it says this is blue and just change it into red. Yeah. So that's that. And that's all fine because we're all developers. So that's all fun and games. But what about our end users? They don't want to copy paste this JSON code. So there's a guy in the United States who actually made this. And this is called the column formatter. Has anybody already worked with this? Or saw this or heard about it? No? Okay. Really cool. So this is for you guys who are not developers. I'm not a developer either. So. This is what makes our life super easy. Because with this we can make super crazy cool things without knowing anything. So this is a free web part that you can just look up. You can just install it on your in your tenant. And how does that look like? So it is free. So how does it look like? It looks like this. So what I can do is I can say I want to format a column and I want to build something. Cool. So what kind of column am I starting with? For example, I want to start with with a number, and then I can choose here. I'll make it a little bit bigger so that you can actually see it. So I can start from scratch writing something in JSON code, but I can also use a number of templates that are already in there. So like for example, trending bars, data bars, I can start a flow, I can add a severity, which is just a color and an exclamation point. But I can, for example, also use donuts. Everybody likes donuts, right?
Nope.
No? Oh no, gluten, sorry.
The gluten.
Oh, yeah. It's all gluten. So, donut bars. Then we get something like this. And what I really like about this web part is that you can also just configure it. Like the low would be 0, the high would be 100. I don't know if there are people that did so much, but let's say the high would be 50. I want to display it in a donut. I want to make it a little bigger. I want to use the outer color, let's say black, and the inner color, let's say orange, something like this. Do I want to display the values or the percentages? Let's show a value. So I just configured everything. What I can now do is click on this button code, and here I get all the code. I just copy paste it. I go back to my players. And I want to use this, for example, for my goals, so that I have a visual representation to see who scored the most goals. Oops, that's the wrong one. Goals. Format this column, advanced mode. I can just paste in that code, save. And now I've got my data bars in there. Yeah. So this is actually this is 2 minutes of work, and this will make me look like a superhero to my customers. Yeah? So I can probably bill 8 hours of work for this. So this will get me rich. Yeah? Okay. So really, download that web part, install it on your tenant, install it on a test tenant or on a demo tenant, whatever. But start to use it because it's just so freaking awesome and it's so super easy to do. Another demo that I can give you to show how cool it is. I also have the club where those people are playing. So I can also do something with that. So I'm going back to my column formatter. I want to start with a new one. It's a text. And I can use a tiny map, for example. So just gonna copy paste that in here, go back to my players, go to my club, format the column, paste that code in there, boom. And I've got a tiny map from all the places where those people are playing. So in 10 minutes I can make my list just look like some, yeah, I know. I had the same expression on my face as well. Yeah. So this is just like super easy to do. Yeah.
It's copy pasting the code.
Just copy pasting code. I know. That's what I do all day long. Copy paste shit. Yeah.
So can you show how you add that feature? Like how do you make the code to switch from one mark or just this implementation logic in the JSON declaration?
It's just in that web part, in that custom format web part.
Or
So
just
it's just in there. It's just in there, so you just say, I want to create a new one. And the code behind, yeah, you can just work on that. If you're a developer, you can choose. You can, for example, say, well, this is using Google. I don't want to use Google. I want to use Bing, for example. So you can just change whatever you want. Or you want to make that bigger, or you want to say that it needs to point to somewhere else. It can all work. So, let's see. So what is possible? This guy Chris Kent is still working on this. So every few months there's a new version that is coming out. So these are the things that are currently possible. So these are the different templates that are in there. These are the columns of the column types that you can use. So really super easy to use. So my donuts, my tiny maps. Something I already said before, so what you can also do is if you create a flow, you can actually go and create a button that will start a flow. So how does that look? So I go into my flow, and I've got a specific flow that I already created. It's called goal. So that means that when they're playing, somebody scores a goal, I can just click on goal and it will start a workflow. In this case, it will send me an email and it will update the column with the number of goals. It will add one to that. So super easy workflow, super stupid. But what I can do is I can just copy the ID of my flow. You can find that here. When you open up the flow, you can find that in your bar upstairs. I can go back here. I can go to my column formatter. I can create a new one. It's going to be texts. I want to start a flow. I just paste I'll make it a bit bigger again. I just have to paste my flow ID in there. I can change the text, so I'll say goal, something like this. Does it have to display a color? Does it have to display an icon? No icon needed. Blue, black, sure. Okay, so I just did that. I can just copy the code, copy this here, go back to my players list. And what I can do now is just add a new column here. And I'm gonna go with a, let's say what was I looking for? A calculated column. I'll call that goal. Just add this here. And I'll add my column formatting, because you can also add that column formatting when you go into your list settings, in your column settings. Okay, so now we've got this extra column here called goal. And if David De Gea scores a goal, which would be unlikely because he's a goalkeeper, but if we click on this button, my flow can start. And you will see an email coming in very soon. And if I refresh, this 0 is now changed into a 1. So you can also do things like that. So for example, for sales, if they made a sale, they can just click on a button and a workflow runs. Cool. How are we for time? Are we? How much do we have?
15 minutes, I
15
think.
minutes? Okay.
Or more.
More?
20.
20? Okay. Are you bored yet, or do you want me to continue? Okay,
Not
cool.
bored yet.
So, how do we want to roll this out to our company, to our organization? There are a few ways how we can do that. So, the first way, it could be PowerShell. Who likes PowerShell? Yeah, cool. I like PowerShell. I'm not a developer and I like PowerShell. So, this guy, Paul Bullock, he actually made a PowerShell example that you can just find on his blog to actually, with PowerShell, add conditional formatting to a column. So he just does some crazy things that I don't know anything about because I'm not a developer and this is too difficult for me. But you can just use that. So if I go in here, so what it actually does is it actually updates your specific column that you want with an XML schema with your JSON code in there. So if you create your JSON code, you can just put it in there. You can do whatever PowerShell that you want to do. So in this case, what this is going to do is I have a library called project documents, and I can just run my PowerShell code. Super secret passwords. And what you can do with PowerShell, for example, is if you have a specific field that you want to have a special conditional formatting on 7,000 SharePoint sites, you can just use your PowerShell to loop and say, okay, for every site that we have, just put that in there. So this worked. So what this actually did is it created a new column here with my conditional formatting in there. Yeah? So you can also use PowerShell to do that. There's also, yeah, cool. There's also another way how you could do that, and that's with the content type hub. So for example, if you're doing a lot of projects, and you have, for example, I don't know, task or something, and you always have the same column that is in that list or in that library, and you always want that to have the same formatting, you can just use your content type hub to create a column there, a side column, give that formatting over there, and then every time somebody uses that column in your whole tenant, they will get that look and feel, that conditional formatting. I'm not going to demo this one because you probably all know what a content type hub is. Doesn't anybody know what a content type hub is? Okay, cool. Good. So that's conditional formatting on my column level. Now what Microsoft also rolled out last year, I think somewhere in the summertime, is also something called view formatting. Because we can now make our columns look pretty nice, but we can also do that with views. It was first called row formatting. There are a lot of examples here as well, if you want. So if you just go to that GitHub site, you can find all kinds of examples. So how does this work? So here you go into your view menu, and you click on Format Current View, and then you can have something happen. So for example, a demo. I've got a number of items, so in this case documents, and a number of items are assigned to a specific person, for example. But if these are a lot of items, I kind of want to see them pop out if they're my items, if they're items that are assigned to me, for example. So what I can do for that is grab some code that I also just found on that SharePoint, on that GitHub site. And what I do now is instead of going to my column, I go to my view because I want to format my view. And here I can paste that code and just save it. And what this will do now, it will, as a demo, just highlight all the items where my name is. Because I'm the person that is logged in, so it will highlight the names of the items where I am in. So it doesn't only format your column, it formats your whole row in this case. So you have two versions of this. So the first, that's not working. The first version is the one that I just did here. And that's called additional row class. So this is the code that I just pasted in. So you have a schema and then you have an additional row class. So that means we already have our HTML and our CSS on our screen. And what I now want to do in this case is I want to add something to it. So in this case, my color that I want to add, for example. But it is also really cool that you can also use these @me and @today, for example. So I want to add something extra. I want to add that extra red color. That's the first way how you can do it. There's also another way, and that is called the row formatter. And this, what this will do is this will just grab all your HTML or your CSS that Microsoft has spent so much time and money to build. And it will just say, okay, I'll just kick it out, and I'll just make something myself. So you need to add your own code, how it needs to look. But what you can do with that is you can actually make it look very cool. So in this case, for example, I've got a bulletin board where people can add something. This is how my list normally looks, so super boring. But what I can do here is if I change this one to my nice view, it will actually look like this, for example. So you can actually do lots of really cool things with that row formatter as well. So I also think I've got another. You can also make it look like this. This is also an example that Microsoft gives you. So this is just your normal default SharePoint list. You can actually make it look like it's Amazon's web shop or something. Also with buttons that you can press on, start flows, do navigation, whatever. So you can do all kinds of really cool stuff. So some tips. At current field equals title. That's very easy. Also something that you probably didn't notice here is when I go back to my normal view, I actually have my selection box and I've got my column titles. And there's also a way, if I now go back to my nice view, you will see that those are gone. Yeah? So there is a way how you can do that in code, in your JSON code. If you use hide selection and hide column header, you will not see those as well. So that's very cool. And yeah, so you get additional row class and you got a row formatter. Yeah? So build this for your end users. Make that, grab that, that Chris Kent web part, add it somewhere, show it to your end users. Make sure that they can use it, create a demo site where you can add some examples. Use your content type hub. So what else is coming in 2019? A lot of things. One last thing I also want to show you is SharePoint Spaces. I'm not showing it, I'm not demoing it, but I would love to. So if you really want your list to look really awesome and really cool, you can also start use SharePoint Spaces when it comes out. Because this is also just a list. So this is a list with a few items, and that will be spread around on canvas, and with your HoloLens glasses you can all see that. So, key takeaways: don't fear Jason, if you know the movies. Year of the list, install the free web part, show it to your, maybe not end users, but definitely your power users, so that they can do that. And you actually, what you want to do is you want to make them look cool. You want to make your power users look cool. So if you demo this to your power users, they will look cool to their end users, and they will love you for making them look cool. I will publish the slides, so there are a few links that you can click on. The demo code for the PowerShell, where you can find that column formatter, and these are just Microsoft examples that you can use as well. So, do you have any questions?
What about this thing that SharePoint Spaces that you just saw?
That is something that Microsoft is working on. It's in beta. And it is a virtual reality thing for SharePoint. So I actually have no idea where I want to use this. I've got a list with 200,000 items. Yeah, really cool.
Products to be something interesting for CAD, no? Or drawings.
For CAD drawings, maybe. Yeah, sure. But then again, for a CAD drawing, I would love to see it like I can walk around in it. Like if I draw a building, then I want to walk around in that building. That would be super cool. But yeah, I don't know. But it's an interesting thought experiment.
Or maybe a few items, like if there's not a lot of items. A few items.
I've got no idea. Really, I have no idea why I ever want to use this. It is cool, but I've got no business case for it.
You can put pictures of cats there.
Pictures of cats is always a good idea. Yes, absolutely. Okay. If that's all, I'll be here all day answering questions. Remember, I'm not a developer, and no, I will not fix your watch. But for the rest, feel free to buy me a beer later on, and have fun today.